I remember the exact moment my world shifted, because suddenly the laughter at my daughter-in-law's joke felt like shattered glass against my skin. The smell of roasted ham and sweet potato casserole should have been comforting. It was Thanksgiving. After all, the holiday I'd hosted for 37 years, but instead, it made my stomach turn. My son, Michael's wife, Vanessa, stood at the head of my dining table, the one my late husband Robert had built with his own hands, and raised her wine glass like she was giving a toast at her own coronation. "I just want to say," she began, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "that this will probably be the last Thanksgiving we do things the old way. Michael and I have been talking, and we think it's time for some changes around here." I felt my daughter Emily stiffen beside me. My grandson Tyler, only 6 years old, looked up from his mashed potatoes with confusion in his eyes. "What kind of changes?" Emily asked, her voice tight. Vanessa smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Well, for starters, Mom, she never called me by my name. Always, Mom, with that particular edge that made it sound like an insult, is getting older. We think it's time she stopped worrying about finances and let us handle things. For her protection, of course." The room went silent. My other son, David, who'd flown in from Seattle with his family, set down his fork slowly. "Handle what things?" he asked. Michael, my firstborn, the boy I'd raised to be strong and independent, wouldn't meet my eyes. "Mom, we're just concerned. You're 72, living alone in this big house. What if something happens? What if you fall? What if someone takes advantage of you?" I took a sip of water, buying myself time. I'd seen this coming for months, ever since Vanessa had started making comments about the outdated decor, about how much the property must be worth, about how I was all alone now that Robert was gone. "I appreciate your concern," I said quietly, "but I'm managing just fine." Vanessa laughed, actually laughed. "Are you though? Michael told me about your friend Barbara who got scammed out of $50,000 last year. These con artists target widows. They know you're vulnerable." "I'm not Barbara," I said. "Of course not," Vanessa continued, as if I hadn't spoken. "But we've been doing some research, and there are excellent senior living communities in the area. You'd have people around, activities, meals, prepared. You wouldn't have to worry about maintaining this huge house anymore." Emily stood up abruptly. "Vanessa, this is Mom's home. She's not going anywhere." "Emily, sweetheart," Vanessa said in that condescending tone she'd perfected, "this isn't your decision. Michael is the oldest. He has power of attorney." "No," I interrupted, my voice still calm, "he doesn't." Michael finally looked at me. "Mom, we talked about this last year. You said you'd think about it." "I said I'd think about it. I never signed anything." Vanessa's smile faltered for just a second. "Well, regardless, we've made some decisions. We've already contacted a realtor to get the house appraised. This property is worth at least $800,000, maybe more. That money could be put to much better use. Michael and I have some debts to pay off: his student loans, the new car, the renovations we did on our kitchen, and Tyler will need college savings soon." I sat very still, watching my son avoid my gaze while his wife systematically dismantled my life. "And honestly," Vanessa continued, clearly on a roll now, "it's not like you need all this space, or all that money sitting in accounts doing nothing. We're your family. We should benefit from what you and Robert worked for, while you're still alive to see us enjoy it." The phrase hung in the air like a threat. "While you're still alive," David stood up. "Vanessa, that's enough. This is completely inappropriate. Stay out of this, David," Michael said, finally finding his voice. "This doesn't concern you." "The hell it doesn't. That's my mother you're talking about like she's already dead." Tyler started crying, overwhelmed by the tension. Emily picked him up and carried him out of the room. Vanessa placed her hand on my shoulder, and I had to force myself not to flinch. "We're not trying to upset you. We're trying to help. You've worked so hard your whole life. Don't you want to rest? Let us take care of things." I looked up at her, at this woman who'd married my son 6 years ago and had been slowly, methodically working to isolate me from him ever since. "And if I say no?" I asked softly. She squeezed my shoulder, just hard enough to make her point. "Well, we'd hate to have to get the courts involved. At your age, with your memory, my memory is fine. It would be such a shame if we had to prove you're not competent to make your own decisions anymore." There it was, the threat I'd been waiting for. The mask had finally slipped. I smiled, just a small smile. "I see." Vanessa looked triumphant. "I'm so glad you're being reasonable about this. We've already drawn up some paperwork, just a few signatures, and we can get everything transferred over. Then you won't have to worry about a thing." She pulled a folder from her designer handbag, the one she'd bought with the credit card Michael had maxed out, and spread documents across my table. I didn't even look at them. Instead, I looked at my son. "Michael, is this really what you want?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Mom, it's for the best. Vanessa's right. You shouldn't have to deal with all this stress at your age." "What stress exactly am I dealing with?" He floundered. "Well, the house, the bills, the maintenance. I have a lawn service. The bills are on auto pay." "What else?" Vanessa cut in smoothly. "The point is, you shouldn't have to think about any of it. Let us handle everything. We'll take care of you." I stood up slowly, my knees protesting a bit arthritis, not incompetence, and walked to the window. Outside, the autumn leaves were brilliant against the gray sky. Robert had loved this view. "Tell me something, Vanessa," I said, still looking out the window. "What exactly do you think I do all day?" "I'm sorry?" "My days. What do you imagine I do with my time?" She laughed nervously. "Well, I don't know. Garden? Watch TV? Play cards with your friends?" I turned to face her. "Is that what you think? That I spend my days in a rocking chair, waiting to die?" "That's not what I meant. Because I'm curious. If you've done all this research, contacted realtors, drawn up legal documents, surely you've looked into my actual situation. You said you wanted to protect me from con artists, that you're worried about my finances. So tell me, what do you know about my finances?" The room had gone very quiet. Emily had come back in, standing in the doorway with David. Vanessa's confidence wavered. "Well, I know that Robert's pension stopped when he died. I know you have Social Security. I know there's equity in this house. How much do you think is in my bank accounts?" She glanced at Michael, who suddenly looked very uncomfortable. "I don't know the exact amount. Michael saw a statement once, said it was maybe 50,000, which is exactly why you need help managing it. That could disappear so fast if you're not careful." I smiled again, and this time, I let it reach my eyes. "Michael, when exactly did you see this statement?" He mumbled something. "I'm sorry. I didn't hear you." "Last Christmas," he said louder. "It was on your desk. I wasn't snooping. It was just there. My Chase checking account. Yes, the one I use for household expenses." Vanessa's face was starting to show the first hints of uncertainty. "I don't understand what you're getting at." "No," I said softly. "I don't think you do." I walked to my study, Robert's old office, and opened my filing cabinet. When I returned, I placed a different folder on the table. "Let me tell you what I've been doing with my time, since you're so concerned about how I spend my days." I opened the folder to the first page. When Robert died 5 years ago, he left me his life insurance. $500,000. A lot of money, yes? Vanessa's eyes lit up. Michael leaned forward. "I took that money," I continued, "and I did something with it. Something I'd been planning for years but never had the capital to execute. Do you know what I did?" Silence. "I bought property. Not this house was already paid off. I bought rental properties. 4 apartment buildings in the downtown area. Back when the market crashed and no one wanted them. Buildings that were run down, needed work. Everyone said I was crazy. A widow in her late 60s. Buying slum properties? I pulled out the next document. This is the current valuation of those properties. The downtown area has been revitalized. Those slum apartments are now luxury lofts. The total value is approximately $6.2 million. The color drained from Vanessa's face. But that's not all I did with my time. I also took Robert's advice. He was always smarter about these things than I was, and I diversified. I invested in tech stocks early. Very early. Before most people even knew what they were investing in. Another document. This is my portfolio with Merrill Lynch. Current value, $3.8 million. Michael's mouth was hanging open. And then there's the patents. Did you know your father was an inventor? He had 17 patents to his name. When he died, they transferred to me. Most of them aren't worth much, but two of them, two little designs he sketched out in his workshop, are now essential components in medical equipment. The royalties come in quarterly. I pulled out a statement. Last quarter's royalties, $240,000. Vanessa had sunk into a chair. So, when you ask me what I do all day, I continued, my voice never rising above conversational. I manage my properties. I communicate with my tenants. I review investment opportunities with my financial advisors. I sit on the board of 2 local charities. I attend shareholder meetings. I make decisions about money that you can't even begin to comprehend. I looked at my son, and for the first time since this nightmare had begun, I let him see the disappointment in my eyes. Michael, did you really think I was just some helpless old woman? Did you forget who raised you? Who worked 2 jobs after your father got laid off? Who built a successful catering business from our kitchen and put you and David through college? Mom, I didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't ask. You assumed. You both assumed that because I'm old, because I'm a widow, because I don't wear designer clothes or drive a fancy car, that I must be helpless. That I must need you to swoop in and save me from myself. I turned to Vanessa. And you thought you could manipulate my son into stealing from me. You thought you could threaten me with court proceedings and competency hearings. Did you know that making false claims of incompetency against an elder is considered abuse in this state? Did you know I could have you charged? Her face went white. I didn't mean. You did mean it. You meant every word. You saw a target, and you went after it. I gathered the documents back into my folder. Here's what's going to happen now. Michael, you and your wife are going to leave. You're going to think very carefully about the kind of man you want to be. The kind of father you want to be to Tyler. Mom, please. I'm not finished. Emily, David, thank you for standing up for me. Emily, you and Tyler can stay as long as you like. David, I hope you and Jennifer will still spend the weekend. I walked to the front door and opened it. Vanessa, Michael, I'll see you at Christmas. Maybe, if you figured out how to treat me with respect. Vanessa grabbed her purse and her folder of fraudulent documents. Michael stood there, looking lost. Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't know, Vanessa said. Your wife said a lot of things, Michael, and you believed her. Instead of talking to me, that's what hurts the most. They left. The door closed behind them. I stood there for a moment, my hand on the doorknob, feeling every one of my 72 years. Emily appeared beside me. Mom, are you okay? No, I said honestly, but I will be. I can't believe Michael would do that. I can't believe he'd just go along with her scheme. He didn't know it was a scheme, sweetheart. He thought he was protecting me. Vanessa is very good at manipulation. She probably convinced him I was losing my mind, that I needed help, that he was being a good son. That doesn't excuse it. No. I agreed. It doesn't. The next few weeks were difficult. Michael called several times. But I wasn't ready to talk to him. Vanessa, I learned through Emily, was furious. She'd apparently told Michael that I was bluffing, that I couldn't possibly have that much money, that I'd probably faked the documents to embarrass her. Michael, to his credit, had gone to the county records office and verified the property ownership himself. He'd called his Uncle Robert's brother, who confirmed the patents. He'd done what he should have done in the first place. He'd actually investigated instead of assuming. 3 weeks before Christmas, he showed up at my door. Alone. "Can we talk?" he asked. I let him in. We sat in the living room, the same room where Vanessa had tried to dismantle my life. "I filed for divorce," he said without preamble. I blinked. "Michael, I should have done it a long time ago. Before we had Tyler, probably. I just kept thinking she'd change, that if I was patient enough, if I was successful enough, if I gave her everything she wanted, she'd be happy. But she won't. She can't be. Because it's never about what she has, it's about taking from other people." "What brought this on?" He laughed bitterly. "You want to know the final straw? After Thanksgiving, she started calling lawyers. Not divorce lawyers, lawyers who specialize in elder abuse cases. She wanted to sue you for emotional distress, for leading her on about a potential inheritance. I couldn't help it," I laughed. "She wanted to sue me for not being poor. That's when I realized she's not just greedy. She's delusional. And I've been enabling her for 6 years. I've maxed out credit cards for her. I've lied to you about why we needed money. I've let her isolate me from Emily, from David, from you. I've let her turn me into someone I don't recognize." "Michael." "No, let me finish. When Dad died, you told me something. You said that the measure of a man isn't what he has, but what he does when everything is taken away. Dad lost his job, his health, his life savings to medical bills. And he never once made you feel like it was your job to fix it. He partnered with you. He built things with his hands because he couldn't provide with his paycheck. He invented because he couldn't work. He never gave up his dignity." Tears were streaming down his face now, "and I just tried to steal yours. I'm so ashamed, Mom. I'm so sorry." I moved to sit beside him, and I did what I'd done since he was small. I held him while he cried. "I forgive you," I whispered. "But you need to forgive yourself too. And you need to be better. For Tyler, I will. I am. I've already started. I got a second job, night security at a warehouse. I'm going to pay off every cent of debt Vanessa and I accumulated. Without your money. Without anyone's money but my own." "What about Tyler?" "Vanessa wants full custody. She says I can't provide for him properly." He laughed again, that bitter sound. "The irony is, she can't either. Her parents have been bankrolling her lifestyle for years. But she's already started bad-mouthing you to Tyler, telling him you're mean, that you don't love him." "Stop," I said firmly. "We're not going to let her do that to him." "Do you have a good lawyer?" "I have a lawyer. I don't know if he's good. I can't really afford." "You can't afford a bad lawyer, not when your son is at stake." I pulled out my phone and called my attorney, the same one who'd helped me structure my property holdings. "Marcus, I need a referral for a family law specialist, custody case." "Yes, it's urgent." Michael started to protest. "Mom, I can't let you. You're not letting me do anything. I'm choosing to help my son protect my grandson." "There's a difference. It took 6 months. 6 long, brutal months of court proceedings, of Vanessa's increasingly unhinged accusations, of Michael working himself to exhaustion to prove he could provide for his son. She claimed he was abusive. She claimed I was bribing judges. She claimed the documents I'd shown at Thanksgiving were forged. Every claim was investigated and dismissed. And with each dismissal, her credibility crumbled a little more. In the end, Michael got primary custody. Vanessa got supervised visitation every other weekend, and a stern warning from the judge about parental alienation. The day the verdict came in, Michael brought Tyler to my house. We made cookies, chocolate chip, Tyler's favorite. We didn't talk about the trial or about Vanessa. We just baked and laughed and made a mess of my kitchen. That night, after Tyler had fallen asleep in the guest room that I'd started converting into a bedroom for him, Michael and I sat on the back porch. The same porch where Robert and I used to sit every evening, planning our future. I learned something through all of this, Michael said quietly. I learned that silence isn't the same as weakness. I looked at him curiously. At Thanksgiving, you could have destroyed Vanessa immediately. You could have pulled out those documents the second she started talking. But you didn't. You let her talk. You let her show everyone exactly who she was. Why? I thought about how to answer. Because if I'd stopped her right away, you might have always wondered if she was right. If maybe I was vulnerable, if maybe you should have stepped in. But by letting her talk, by letting her make her threats, and show her true intentions, you got to see the whole picture. You got to make your own choice. That must have hurt. Sitting there, listening to her talk about you like that. It did, I admitted. But I've lived long enough to know that the truth always comes out eventually. The people who survive aren't always the loudest. They're the ones who watch, who wait, who choose their moments carefully. Dad taught you that. Your father taught me a lot of things. He taught me that dignity matters more than pride, that patience is different from passivity, that the strongest foundations are built slowly, quietly, when no one's watching. I'm going to teach Tyler that too. I know you will. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the crickets and the distant sound of traffic. Mom, Michael said eventually, what are you going to do with all that money? I smiled. I've been thinking about that. I'm going to set up trust funds for Tyler and Emily's kids when she has them. And for David's daughter, money they can't touch until they're 30, but enough to give them real freedom when they're old enough to use it wisely. They'll be grateful. Maybe. Or maybe they'll be like Vanessa and think they deserve it sooner. Time will tell. I paused. I'm also going to donate to the women's shelter downtown. And I'm thinking about starting a program that teaches financial literacy to widows. Too many women, Roberts and my age, never learned to manage money. Their husbands did it all, and then they're left vulnerable. Like Vanessa thought you were. Like Vanessa thought I was. I agreed. But I wasn't. Because Robert taught me. He insisted I learn, even when I didn't want to. He said I needed to be able to take care of myself, just in case. Turns out he was right. He usually was. Don't tell him I said that. His ego was big enough already. Michael laughed, a real laugh this time, and it warmed something in my chest that had been cold since Thanksgiving. A few weeks later, I hosted Christmas dinner. The whole family came: David and Jennifer with their daughter Sophie, Emily with Tyler. Even Michael's brother-in-law, who'd stayed carefully neutral during the divorce but who I'd always liked. Michael arrived early to help cook. We worked in the kitchen together, falling into old rhythms. He'd gotten better about accepting help, letting me pay for Tyler's after-school program, letting me buy the boy new clothes when he outgrew his old ones. But he still worked his 2 jobs. Still made his payments on the debt he'd accumulated. You don't have to punish yourself forever, I told him as he peeled potatoes. I'm not punishing myself. I'm rebuilding. There's a difference. I smiled. Robert would have said the same thing. Dinner was loud and chaotic and perfect. Tyler sat between Michael and me, chattering about his new school and his friends, and the robot he was building with his grandfather's old tools. Grandma, he said suddenly, Mom says you're mean, but I don't think you're mean. I think you're smart. The table went quiet. Michael looked mortified. Thank you, sweetheart, I said calmly. What makes you think I'm smart? Because Dad says you knew Mom was being bad before anyone else did, and you waited until the right time to stop her. That's what smart people do. They wait for the right time. I felt my eyes prickle with tears. Your dad's a smart man too, and he's teaching you to be just like him. And like you, Tyler said matter-of-factly. Dad says I have Grandma's brain and Grandpa's hands. That means I can build anything and make it work right. I looked at Michael, who was blinking hard and pretending to be very interested in his turkey. That night, after everyone had gone home and the house was quiet again, I sat in Robert's workshop. I hadn't changed it much since he'd died. His tools were still on the pegboard, his half-finished projects still on the workbench. We did good, I told him, even though he couldn't hear me. Our boy made some mistakes, but he's fixing them. And Tyler, God, Robert, he's so much like you, it hurts. I picked up one of Robert's old sketches, the design that had become one of the valuable patents. He'd drawn it on a napkin during dinner one night, explaining the mechanism to me while I'd pretended to understand. I miss you, I whispered. Every day. But I'm okay. I'm doing what you taught me to do. I'm building things. I'm waiting for the right moments. I'm being smart with the hands you gave me. The workshop was silent, but I felt him there anyway. In the smell of sawdust and motor oil, in the careful organization of the tools, in the way the light fell through the window at sunset. I wasn't just surviving. I was living. I was building. And I was teaching the next generation to do the same. That, I thought, was the best revenge of all. Not destroying the people who'd tried to hurt me, but proving that they couldn't. That I was stronger than they'd imagined. That silence and patience and quiet strength could outlast any amount of noise and manipulation. I turned off the light and headed back to the house. Tomorrow I had a meeting with my financial advisor about a new property acquisition. The day after that, I was having lunch with the director of the women's shelter to discuss the financial literacy program. Life didn't stop just because someone tried to knock you down. It kept going. And if you were smart, if you were patient, you could use that momentum to build something beautiful, something lasting, something worth passing down to the next generation, not as money in a bank account, but as wisdom earned through fire and proven through time. I smiled to myself as I locked the door. Somewhere, I was certain, Robert was smiling too.